Hello and welcome to livealittlehigher.com. Today we continue learning Duties of the Heart, Hodot HaLevavot by Rabbi Bahia Ibn Pakuda, and we are beginning chapter 10 of the Unity of God. It's the last chapter that deals with this subject. It's a long chapter, but we will begin today with the beginning. And it says that here Rabbi Pakuda he wants to divide the meaning of the divine attributes of God. He says there are very many of them, and he wants to divide them into two classes. So the first class, which is the one that we're going to be dealing with today, it talks about the essence of God in his attributes, and then the other class, the same chapter, but later on it will talk about the attributes of action of God. So here we're going to deal with his essence, and later in the future classes we will be talking about how God his action affects us, how in productivity, in doing is God relevant in our lives. So here he says that the reason we call the first class the attributes of essence is that they are abiding attributes of God. As the word says, it's in their essence, and may he be exalted, as Rabbi Pakuda says. They were his before the existence of all created things, and they are his afterwards. So they are befitting of the essence of his glory. These attributes are three. One is that Hashem exists. Two is that he's eternal. And three is that he is one. So he divides them in these three categories, and the reason that we describe him with these three attributes is to convey some conception of him and of the true nature of his existence. So to call the attention to his glory and to help men understand that they have a creator. That's why it's called the attribute of his existence, is because the first thing a human has in his mind to be able to connect to God, and this is the first thing Rabbi Pakuda taught us at the beginning of this chapter, is that the first thing we have to have is to understand that there is a God, that there is an existence, that God does exist, that he is real. And we find it necessary to describe him as existing since all evidence points to the existence of Hashem. And the signs of his existence come when we contemplate the world and we see the way he created the world and how it's so vast, and there's oceans and there's rivers and there's mountains and there's trees and there's fruit trees, and we see all the creation of God and we contemplate the greatness of this creation. Then in no way a person can come to say, you know what, this was made by itself. So a person that is intelligent and is able to look at the world in this way will come by himself to the conclusion that there has to be a creator that created all these things. And as the prophet Yeshayahu says in this verse, he says, "Lift up your eyes on high and see who created these. He who brings out their host by number, he calls them all by name. By his great might and strong power, not one is missing." So when we contemplate the world, his works and creations are evident, and his existence is evident to our minds. There's no question that God exists. That we can never really even doubt that he exists. So we describe him as eternal. This is the second attribute. For all arguments led to the conclusion that this world had a beginning before it was created, and that there was no other beginning. He was, he is, and he will be. There's nothing created God. He has always existed. I know little kids, they ask, okay, God created the world, but who created God? It's a beautiful question. But in reality, the answer is that he was always there. There was nothing but Hashem. There's nothing but Hashem. That's all it exists in reality. He created a world in a way in which we can see the difference in the world, but in his perspective everything is one. So here we see also that it follows that the creator, may he be exalted, is the beginning before which there is no beginning. That is what it's meant by his eternity, as it said, "From eternity to eternity you are God, and before me no God was formed, nor will there be anything after me." So why we describe him as one has already been also explained in length in the last chapter, and it was proven by incontrovertible evidence that the notion of absolute oneness is bound to the essence of his glory. So this is part of his essence, that everything is Hashem. There's nothing but him. Ein od milvado. There's nothing apart from God. Everything is him. And it is inapplicability of plurality to the essence of his glory and the exclusion of change, metamorphosis, accident, creation and destruction, combination and separation, resemblance, association, transformation, and all other types of multiplicity from the true essence of his glory. So we can see that in the world there is many aspects to one thing. Like we can see an apple, for example, and you'll see it has a peel, it has a fruit, it has the seeds. You can like look at it in so many ways, and you can see multiplicity in the apple. But in the reality, if we go back to its creation, we will see that everything starts with God, and God is one. There's nothing apart from him. So it is vital that you understand that the meaning of these attributes which we ascribe to God is not to predicate of the Creator's essence, change and diversity. Rather, the meaning is to deem their opposites. And the opposites of these three attributes of essence inapplicable to him, may he be exalted. What we have in mind by their attribution is that the Creator of the world is neither plural nor non-existent nor created. So he is, he was, and he will be. There's nothing apart from God. He's everything. And even though we can perceive plurality, multiplicity in this world, in reality, if we look back and back and back and back, everything comes to one. Everything comes to him. So it's also important for you to know that each one of these three attributes, which we have mentioned, when carefully analyzed, necessarily implies the other two. And this will now be demonstrated. So what Rabbi Pakuda is telling us here is that they go together. Like one cannot be without the other. Like the essence of God, the God being eternal, God being one, and God being existing, that he exists, that he's eternal, and that he's one. In reality, they go hand in hand. They go together. So two, we say that when the attribute of perpetual existence pertains to something, the attributes of absolute oneness and eternity also pertain to it. They're talking about the same thing. So these three attributes are one in meaning and significance. They do not imply any change in the essence of the glory of the Creator, and nor the attachment of any accidental properties to him, nor any plurality in his essence. For the notion we are to understand by them is that the Creator, may he be exalted, is neither non-existent, nor creator, nor plural. So he repeats this, and since we could not find in the languages known to us, like we cannot give one name to this essence, not because God is lacking, it's because we ourselves are lacking. We don't have the correct words to put into the essence of Hashem. We cannot express ourselves in that way because we are not eternal. We are limited beings. That's why Rabbi Pakuda gives these three attributes to the essence of Hashem, so we can explain it. But in reality, with one word it would suffice, but we don't have that word in our lexicon. So the plurality that exists in the attributes of the Creator, may he be exalted, derives not from the essence of his glory, but from the inability of man to give full expression to the concept of God in one word. So it is us who are lacking, not God. And because we are lacking, we cannot come to understand the whole picture. So what you must understand in regard to the Creator is that nothing is like him. We have to understand we cannot compare him to anything. We cannot imagine that he's in a certain way. We can't, because there's nothing like him. There's nothing that we can really ever have seen that can compare to God. There's nothing like him. And here he says that, as Aristotle said, the negative attributes of God are truer than the positive ones. For all positive attributes ascribed to the essence of his glory cannot escape the characteristics of substantial or accidental properties, and the creator of substance and accident is not subject to their properties. So the negative attributes ascribed to God, like that he's angry or he's vengeful, when sometimes the Torah uses these words, which are negative attributes to God, what it means is he is above all quality and description, resemblance or comparison. What you must therefore understand from these three attributes of which we have spoken is the inapplicability of their opposites to the Creator. May he be exalted. So what it means is that for us human beings to be able to connect to God, we have to sometimes put him like in a human perspective for us to be able to connect to him. But it doesn't mean that he's angry. It doesn't mean that he's vengeful, that he's jealous. It doesn't mean Hashem is above all that. But for us to understand these concepts, then he has to put it in human form so we can come to understand. So I leave you here. It's a lot of food for thought. And I wish you a good, blessed week. And we'll see you next week. Live a little higher. Thank you.